Okay, we are live. Attendees are already pouring in. We have a lot to cover. So I'm just gonna give everybody 1 minute to join. It looks like we already had a good group in the waiting room, which is awesome. Thank you guys so much for your patience. We'll get started in just 1 minute. Oh yeah, okay, good group. Super exciting. Hi, Lori. All right. Few more seconds. We've got a good group here. What do you think, Miss Stacy? Shall we go ahead and get started?
Yeah, we can get started.
Okay, we've got a lot to cover. Let's go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone so much for joining us today. I'm Autumn Sullivan, the Marketing Director at Mobilization Funding. I am super excited to have Stacy Holsinger with me. She is the owner of Steel Toe Communications. And Stacy, let's go ahead and kick it off with you introducing yourself and your company.
Yeah, sure. So like you said, Stacy Holsinger, based out of Maryland, and I focus on marketing plans, social strategy, email, video. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's awesome. And how long have you been marketing in the AEC industry?
Yeah, so I've been in the industry for over 15 years. I've worked in home building. I've worked for a civil engineering contractor and a mechanical contractor.
That's awesome. My own background, I have about 10 years of experience in marketing. I have worked with Mobilization Funding for about 3 years, first as a contractor and then as a full-time employee. And during my time as a marketing agency, I helped a couple of construction clients with website development, digital marketing, and particularly inbound content and social media marketing. So that's who we are. And today we're going to talk about social media marketing for your company in the AEC industry. And we want this to be very collaborative. So if you have a question, please drop it in the Q&A or in the chat. I will try and keep an eye on both of those things as we move through the presentation. But let's go ahead and get started. So there are a lot of social media platforms, and I like to use the analogy of restaurants in New York City because I used to live there and I miss it every day. And so, you know, when you walk down a city street, there's, oh, look, there's a new Italian restaurant. Oh, look, there's a new Thai restaurant. And then a month later, it's like, oh, the Thai restaurant's gone. And now there's an Ethiopian restaurant. Social media platforms come and go really fast. And so we are going to focus on the top 4 that have remained. We're going to talk about Facebook. We're going to talk about LinkedIn. We're going to talk about Instagram. And we're going to talk about YouTube. We're not going to talk about Twitter, which Stacy can get into a little bit. She has some interesting statistics on Twitter. But those are the big 4 that we're going to talk about. And before we dig into that, the first question, Stacy, that I know I hear, and I'm sure you do, is what role does social media even play in marketing for a construction business?
Yeah, we'll definitely be answering that. So throughout the presentation, and we're going to talk about social strategy and how each platform works a little bit differently and how you can leverage them. So this is just a brief, social media explain for anybody in like your boss or somebody that's not really familiar or doesn't see the value, and a brief, sentence of each one on how to incorporate each one into your strategy. But the big picture of everything is if you are everything to everyone, you're going to be nothing to no one. So it's super important to focus on those top 4 or just a couple because things change so frequently. Formats change. Sometimes they take off features, they add features. There's all these fun tools that you can use. Scheduling software, which all this stuff that you can get into, but it comes down to figuring out your company and how many resources and the time that you have on hand. If you just have one marketing person, maybe you just focus on 2 platforms and really dive deep into them and get to know them and are consistent. If you have a bigger team, then you can experiment with a little bit, more platforms. So that's kind of what we'll be talking about.
Yeah, I really believe it's about, before you start a marketing strategy, it's about knowing yourself as a company. So it's about being truth, like speaking your truth on that platform. And so you have to know who you are first. And we're going to get into that in the strategy part, and then knowing kind of what the strengths are of the different platforms. So we're going to dig into the platforms first. And before we get into the top 4, I do want to address the 2 big new kids on the block that everyone's talking about right now. So we have TikTok and Clubhouse. So TikTok started many years ago, but became like super popular around March of 2020, like right around the pandemic. Everyone was trapped at home and was like, oh, what's this new fun video sharing platform? And that's really what TikTok is. It's a short video sharing platform. It started out mostly with music and dance videos, but now it includes everything: unboxing, funny kid videos, funny pet videos, celebrity challenges. The demographic for TikTok tends to be very young. So Pew Research Center said that 48 of US adults between 18 to 29 years old use TikTok. And that figure drops drastically to only 20% when you get into the 30 and 49 category, and then even lower if you get into 50 and 64. So that is not to say that TikTok doesn't have play in your social media strategy potentially, but you should know what it's being used for and who is on it. So if you're trying to reach, business decision makers, they're probably not on TikTok.
I think to add to that, for TikTok, if you're a contractor, if you do have the resources to experiment with it, how I see it being utilized is if workforce development is part of your strategy at your corporation, where maybe, you have community service. I know, like when I used to work for a mechanical contractor, we did this big event in Washington, D.C. called the Big Build. And there was thousands of kids that came between the ages of 6 and on. And contractors came up with these little games to get them interested. Mm-hmm. TikTok, that's your audience. So there is value in that, in reaching that audience at an early age to educate them about construction opportunities. So again, if that's, part of your culture at your organization, then you should give, TikTok a shot.
Yeah, it really all comes down to the strategy, right? That's what you'll find. That's going to be a main theme throughout this presentation, is it really depends on what your goals are for social media, which platforms are going to have the biggest, going to be the biggest drivers for you. So Clubhouse is kind of like chat rooms. It's audio only. It's invite only, but it's drop-in audio sessions. It's very popular among marketers. It has 56% of Clubhouse users are 18 to 34, 42% are 35 to 54. And I think there are more decision makers using Clubhouse than TikTok right now. I see a lot of Clubhouse invites going out on LinkedIn. I think that if you are a general contractor and you want to talk about safety on the works, on work sites, I think that would be a great place to experiment with Clubhouse. There's definitely room to play with both of these platforms, but they are very new. And so it is experimental. And so we don't want to spend too much time on them. That's why we're going to go ahead and focus on the top 4 that are tried and true and we know can deliver results for you.
I am curious real quick though, in the chat, if you can just give us a quick yes or no, if you've experimented with Clubhouse yet. It's only been a year since it first released and launched. And first it went to Apple users and it was invitation only, which really built up that hype. And it's in between a LinkedIn and a podcast series. Okay, so yeah. So you want to look at it. So if you're a fan of LinkedIn and you like learning with podcasts, Clubhouse is something that you'll probably want to experiment with. There's a lot of top speakers that just go in there and there's a variety of topics and you just kind of log in and listen and learn. So it's sharing best practices. That's pretty much what the platform is about. So good that some of you guys never heard of it. Again, it's very new. And I think it just transferred to Android. So I'm pretty sure it's open to everybody now. But we can move forward with the top 4.
Sure. And I do love hearing the comment that my clients love hearing my voice, love hearing from me. I think that's a really cool, that's kind of the allure of Clubhouse, is that hearing another person's voice is uniquely resonant with people, right? Especially when we were all locked up in our own homes, right? It was really nice to be able to hear another voice. So yeah, let's go ahead and dig in to the top 4 platforms. So like Stacy said, it's not about being everywhere and everything to everyone. It's about finding the platforms that fit your strategy, that fit the goals of your strategy. So we're going to talk about Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. Shall we go ahead and dive into the first one?
Yeah, I can.
Let's do it.
So I wanted to touch base a little bit on these platforms and why they're important. Facebook marketing for B2B, business to business, which is what we're in, has been on fire for several years and continues to be. Their advertising space, if you haven't experimented with advertising on Facebook, is very dynamic. It's one of the best, or if not the best, of all these platforms. You can really dive down into your demographics, especially if you're like a local contractor and you just want to hit, like, for example, an HVAC tech that works in the Maryland, DC, Virginia area that likes these interests, whatever. And you can test multiple ads, you can set your budget. That's a great place for advertising. Facebook also, for contractors, I think of it as, friends and family. And when we think about contractors, how do they get the referrals in? Employee referrals, or we talk about employee of the month, employee spotlight, that kind of recognition is very well received on Facebook. And that leads to referrals. When we think about, you talk to your cousin and he says, yeah, I became an electrician because my dad got into it, or my grandfather, or my uncle. These are where people are talking to their family on this type of platform. So think about like employee referrals and experiment with advertising. Then LinkedIn is your business to business top platform. That's where your decision makers are. That's where all the GCs are spending their time. And I think it's really important to add that, they might have a profile on there and they might not be interacting or engaging, but it doesn't mean that they're not doing their research and learning and utilizing this platform. We see a lot of leads come in here. So that's why it's very important for you to engage and stay on top of mind on this platform. And then you have Instagram, and that's pretty much, your visual portfolio. You want to speak visually in photographs and videos, give project updates, focus on company culture, and really get to meet the team on this platform. And then YouTube is the second highest search engine to Google, which is super important if search engine optimization is important to you and how to find your business on your website. YouTube, the videos that you create 5 to 10 years ago still drive traffic to your site today. So that's really important. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And Twitter has seen a decline over the past 5 to 6 years and is continuing. And this is for the B2B space. Mm-hmm. I wanted to make that a little bit clear. So that's why we're focused on, think about your time and resources and focus on the top 4 for this kind of industry. The one thing I did want to note about these top 4 platforms, there's something in common with all of them. Can anyone guess what it is? It's video. So if video is not in your marketing strategy, that's a huge red flag. We have Facebook Live, LinkedIn Live, Instagram Live, YouTube Live. There's stories now, there's reels, there's Instagram TV, YouTube TV, Facebook TV. All of those platforms incorporate video. So if you don't have video part of your strategy, it's a problem. So I'm just letting you know, like that's only gonna continue to rise. But that's a brief, synopsis on those four, but we can move along.
And we're going to get into video. I know that can sound intimidating.
Overwhelming.
Right. It can sound overwhelming or intimidating, but we're going to walk you through how we're going to share some simple tools that people can use to make videos, and also just talk about how making videos is not as high of a level of effort as you probably think. So let's start with Facebook. So Randall Riley Research Center says that 42.5% of executives, managers, and supervisors in heavy construction visit Facebook. And even more, what I found more fascinating than that is, of that group, 77% follow at least one industry-related source, which on Facebook, which means, yes, they're there for friends and family, but they are also treating it as a place where they can get industry news. So there is potential there, right? So I wanted to talk about one of my favorites, ACR Commercial Roofing. They are a client of Mobilization Funding. Andrew Ammons has been on our YouTube show called The Real MFers. He's an amazing guy. And their Facebook page has 691 followers. So that's more than just their friends and family. That's their community, that's their clients, that's people. That's a much broader audience. And the way they do that is by being really, really authentic and posting lots of different kinds of content. So they share sneak peeks of the work that they're going to be doing. They share, I think it's called, what is it called? The other one? Oh, From the Top. They call it From the Top. It's very clever because they're roofers, right? So they call it From the Top, and it shows the completed project. They talk about, as you'll see in this slide, they have videos from their leader, from Andrew, on topics like what happens if something goes wrong on a project. And they really authentically talk about how they own their mistakes, how they fix their mistakes. They use multiple types of content. This is a video. They have a lot of video on their platform. But they also have articles, and they have one-off posts with images. They post regularly, which is another big best practice, is that if you're going to post on a social media, you need to be doing it regularly enough for people to start to expect to see your content, and also for them to engage with it enough for the algorithm to start serving your content up to them. So consistency is key here. But if you haven't checked, if you're not familiar with ACR Commercial Roofing and you are on Facebook, you should go follow them and check out their platform, because they're doing a great job using Facebook as part of their B2B marketing platform. And then we have another one from Stacy that I can't wait to hear more about: the Singing Contractors.
Yeah, so I don't know if any of you guys have heard of the Singing Contractors before, but they got popular off of Facebook in 2015. So Josh Arnett and Aaron Gray, they're hometown boys, Indiana. They both had really great singing voices. Empty buildings provide great acoustics. So I'm sure a lot of contractors sing to get the job done if they feel comfortable enough. But anyway, so they're singing together, and coworkers are noticing. I think they work for Midwest Logistics. It's a home building renovation company, I believe. So they're working on the job, they're singing, and someone pointed it out to them. They brought their pastor, and they usually sing gospel hymns, by the way. So they brought the pastor, and they're belting out these tunes. Somebody records it on their phone. They put it on Facebook. They go viral within 24 hours. That led to 1 million views. They're all over the news. Now they have their own website. They're still contractors. They do this, on the weekends or at night. They do concerts. They have a tour going on starting in August this summer. And you're probably thinking okay, that's cool. That's like a second job or something. But the cool thing about this experience is all of these big brands like Home Depot, Lowe's, Craftsman, saw this story and, started doing vendor sponsorship. So if you check out their website, singingcontractors.com, they have a blog, they have an email newsletter, they have all these opportunities. So when you find something like this that goes viral and it makes sense, there's ways to partner there.
Yeah.
So yeah, the video that went viral was called How Great Thou, if you want to check that out. And since then, they have a YouTube page, they have an Instagram page, all that stuff. And I know the pandemic, I talked to somebody over there, slowed them down a bit because they couldn't get back out, but it looks like the concerts are now going out. And the internet, by the way, deemed them and named them the Singing Contractors. They didn't name themselves, which was pretty cool. So yeah, that's my story for the Singing Contractors. Definitely check them out. It's pretty cool.
That's amazing. And the one of the key pieces of that story that I hope everyone heard from you, and I'm going to bring it up again, because if you're taking notes, I think you should write this down, which is that they didn't go into this saying, we're going to make a viral video, right? Like they didn't go into this thinking, we're going to make these videos, they're going to go viral, and that's our strategy. Going viral is not a strategy. Going viral is a blessing that happens when you are being authentic and you have a creative idea and you're putting forth your honest self in a fun and unique way. There really is no secret sauce to viral, right? So that's not your strategy. Your strategy is just to create authentic, fun videos that are true to you and engaging to your audience. I just want to make sure, because it adds up, someone who worked in a marketing agency for so many years, I want a viral video is a request that we hear a lot. And that's like,
it's so hard to get.
We all want that. We're going to do our best for you, but that's like, the key is to be yourself. There was a Canadian contractor. He was a landscaper, and he shared a video on YouTube about, before you mow your lawn, check for these little clumps of grass because it's baby bunny season. And he literally like pulled back a little lump of grass and there's these adorable nesting baby bunnies asleep. And he's like, so just a shout out, check before you mow your lawn. And it went viral because who doesn't love baby bunnies? But he was like, that was not my intent. My intent was to save baby bunnies from being, run over by a lawnmower. So just be yourself and keep putting good work out there. And going viral is not the goal. So
real quick, I wanted to answer Martha's question. She said, how do you translate that to return on investment? Again, that comes with a partnership. So if you can secure some type of deal with, when someone goes viral, where you can put your brand in front of them and it explodes, because there's millions of people now on the Singing Contractors website, YouTube channels. You can try to partner with them, whether it's like be a guest in one of their videos or, make a deal with them where your logo is on their website or in their newsletter. And then you can track that to see if that's bringing, people back to your website. That's kind of how you would track that ROI. So looking for those partnership opportunities.
Yeah, and we will get into analytics in a later slide. And I do think that's a big part of measuring the ROI, because posting on social media can feel like it's not directly related to your lead generation or directly related to your revenue, but it really is. And one of the most important things is how you tie those numbers back. I can actually show that the larger my LinkedIn audience gets, or the larger our CEO's LinkedIn audience gets, the more leads we get from LinkedIn and the more traffic we get from LinkedIn to our website, so that I can actually show that correlation. And that is because of the CRM that we use. So it's really all about being able to show a correlation between these two important goals. I can do this with this much traffic means this many new leads, or this much engagement means this many impressions in my local community, which can be very important for local contractors. So I hope that answered your question, and we will talk more about analytics and measuring on a later slide. So let's dig into LinkedIn, which is my personal favorite in terms of social media. It's how I met Stacy. It's how I've met dozens of fun people over the past year. So according to Construction Executive, 92% of construction executives use LinkedIn regularly. And according to LinkedIn itself, 4 out of 5 LinkedIn members are key decision makers within their company. So LinkedIn is great for building connections, both with partners and with potential customers. You can post original content about your industry. It's a great place to have conversations about your actual industry and about your trade. It's a great place for thought leadership, not just around your industry, but also around whatever role you are in within your company. So it's great to talk about sales. If you're in sales, I talk about marketing because I'm in marketing, and whatever you're passionate about. The thing about LinkedIn that I always tell our clients, and I am now putting into practice here at Mobilization Funding, is that your personal profile has a lot more gold in it than your company profile. So company pages should be active, because a lot of people verify through LinkedIn. They're like, oh, are you a legitimate company? So if I like what you're saying on LinkedIn, I will click through to see your company page, right? So there's definitely, and you as a leader in your company should be sharing your company pages posts as well. But your company page is never going to get the engagement. Well, your company page is very unlikely to get the engagement that your personal profile will get, which again can feel a little intimidating, right? Oh, I don't want to be saying these things. I don't want to step up here and do these things. But I want to talk to you about what happens when you do, which is my case study, Garrett Moss. Garrett Moss is not a client of Mobilization Funding, but he's definitely one of our friends. And he also is a real MFer on our YouTube channel, which will be coming out. His episode will be coming out in July. He started using LinkedIn because he noticed issues within the relationship between GCs and subcontractors. He noticed things that he had learned about his the way he was running his business and things he wanted to change. And he wanted to have real conversations around that. And so he just started posting. He now has, as you can see on the slide, almost 20,000 followers. His posts regularly get hundreds of engagements, dozens, sometimes hundreds of comments. And all he does is talk authentically and have frank conversations about the construction world. He also shares his projects. I believe this one is, we messed up. And as you can see, that is not the way that piece of equipment is supposed to be sitting on the ground. It's tipped over a little bit. So he talks about what happened and what they did to fix it. That kind of ownership over your company is incredibly valuable on LinkedIn. People really do love to see. I mean, everybody loves to hear, I did something wrong and this is how I made it. This is how I made it better. And we connect with that because we ourselves make mistakes and we like to know we're not alone. That sounds like a soft skill, but it is incredibly valuable in your marketing. If you can be honest about mistakes you've made and lessons you've learned, that really resonates, and it shows a level of trust, right? Like, I'm willing to be open and honest with you. That's gold on LinkedIn. Okay, we have a quick question. As a GC who struggles with subcontractors posting job site content, a good practice is to seek approval to avoid posting images of confidential info. I think that's a great point that you should probably, the GCs and the subs probably want to have that conversation up front. And if you are using job site photos in your marketing as a subcontractor, you should, I mean, it's pretty clear that you're doing that and that the GC can see it. So that's a conversation that you should probably have with each other.
Yeah, and once the project's awarded, there's that lack of communication there. So there should be, and I know sometimes in the contract, it'll say, absolutely don't post, pictures or video on social media, but that often doesn't make it to the marketing department for whatever reason. So I think, just taking that extra step from the GC's marketing manager to reach out to the subs marketing people, or, I know sometimes subs don't have marketing people, so it makes it a little tough. So I totally get that. That's the only really solution I could find, but I think that's why there's big hiccups there, because they forget about that and all the language in the contract for later.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great point. So thank you, Grace, for sharing that. Um, we have a question from Sarah. As a civil engineering firm, we struggle with getting good content of our projects mid-construction. What's the best way to get in front of that? Stacy, what do you recommend for that?
Do you mean content as in like you want to go out there and take photos to give updates on projects? If you're talking about regular content, okay, that's what you are talking about. Is your struggle internally with just keeping on in touch with the foreman or the field team and getting out there? Maybe, okay. So I usually keep in touch with the project managers every couple months and say, what percentage are we at on your project? And can I get out there and take some photos? And they never really said no to me. It's just giving them enough time to schedule and making sure that there's somebody on board. But as a person in your company, they're not going to come to you. So you have to kind of set those ticklers on your calendar. Okay, the project's 20% now, so I'm going to reach out to him in a couple of weeks and see where they're at and just have a quick conversation and say, is there any milestones going on? Can I get out there? That kind of thing. I hope that helps, but that's what's worked for me. Okay, good.
Awesome. Yeah, and you're definitely not alone in that. I mean, I have, when you work for a marketing agency, actually, that's one of the things we would often struggle with is, can we get pictures of, your day to day? And then it was like, well, who's going to take those pictures? And so usually what ended up happening was we'd have to schedule a day when we would go in and do them, because nobody in the office of any industry I've worked in was going to be the one that took those pictures.
Mm-hmm. And most of the team takes pictures, like the problem pictures, right, for their documentation. And those aren't the pictures that we want. So they don't think like a marketing person. So that's where we come in, and we really have to stay on top of the schedule and get out there.
It's a great point, though, because not everyone thinks like a marketer, but a lot of people have the potential to be trained to think like marketers. And sometimes that's a great spot to have a consultant come in and say, train the team that's going to be there to see with a marketing eye, especially if you have younger folk on your site. They are really used to documenting their lives, but a lot of times they don't feel like they have the agency to do it, right? Like, I'm not allowed to do it here. So sometimes it's just having those conversations and identifying those key people who will text you a photo of a site, of a site in progress. I could do a whole webinar just on how open communication and breaking down the silos between departments could help a lot of the problems that we have, because I feel like that's one of those things that we just don't reach out and talk to each other enough. GCs and subs, and then departments within our own organizations. We just stay in our little box. But anyway, that's a whole nother webinar. So I want to tell the story of our own LinkedIn, because when I joined, Scott was very hesitant about posting on LinkedIn on his own profile. And we had a lot of conversations around it. And I finally convinced him that it was the way to go. And when we started posting, he had less than 500 followers when we started. It's been 2 years now. He has over 1,000 followers. And that is without paying any ad dollars. We have used no social advertising for his audience growth. We have no automated, connect with me type bot. We haven't put any investment towards that at all. This is all purely organic. We post, in the beginning, I created topic calendars. I would create topics, and we would sit down together for like 2 hours and we would write out the posts. And then now Scott comes to my office and he's like, I just got off the phone. I had the greatest conversation. I've got a LinkedIn post idea. And I say, okay, great. And he jots down notes for me, and I, edit them, and then we post them. LinkedIn is now, he checks it every day. It is now part of his business process as well. And the reason it's part of his business process, the reason he very quickly went from, I'm very hesitant to do this, to, oh, I really see the value of this, and you need to train the rest of the sales team to start using this as well, is because LinkedIn started delivering leads. It started delivering strategic referral partners, people who could help us grow our business. It started delivering marketing partnerships very quickly, and it started delivering actual customer leads very quickly. And the reason it does that is because it shortcuts the trust building process, right? I can see that you, the CEO of this company, are saying these things. These are the things that you believe in. These are the core values that your business is built on. And it's one thing to see those things on your website in kind of a static form. And it's another thing when the CEO is publishing them to thousands of people online. It's much more resonant. It's getting up on a virtual stage and making a speech about what you believe. It's very, very powerful. LinkedIn is regularly now, and has been for about a year, one of our top drivers of traffic to our website and one of the top drivers of new leads for our business, behind organic, our organic or SEO, which could also totally be a webinar. And let me know if you would like us to do a webinar on SEO, because I will definitely schedule one of those as well. But it's also, and then our outbound sales process also obviously delivers a lot of leads. But you can see on this post, Scott posted that about 5 hours ago, and it already has almost 3,000 views and has almost 30 engagements and has a bunch of comments. And the reason views matter in LinkedIn is because obviously he only has 1,000 followers, but he's got 3,000 views. That means because of those hashtags that are down there, probably leadership is a very good hashtag that we use quite often. People who are not connected to Scott yet, one-to-one connection, still see his post because of those hashtags, or because someone that they are connected to has commented or engaged with this post, which means Scott's reach is exponentially bigger every time with every, and so that's why views matter. So that's my speech about LinkedIn. Don't be afraid of it. Just start posting. It's very addictive. It's super fun once you get into it. And all it really takes is just being yourself.
The only thing I want to add about LinkedIn, when you start this process and this strategy with posting, you have to be consistent. Which means every week, at least twice a week. And then you have to think long term. Do not get discouraged because nobody's interacting with you the first couple months. And just because people aren't interacting with you, there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. I just started my business, transfer of my business in March, and I get leads every single week since March when I started posting consistently. And those aren't people necessarily engaging on my content, but they're emailing me privately, they're calling me, they're asking for advice or, proposals or all this fun stuff. But there's a lot of opportunity on there. And just because you might see 25 or 28 likes here doesn't mean that Scott isn't getting any opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
So hang on and just be consistent and try it out. If you're skeptical, try it out, be consistent for a whole year and see what happens. If there's no magic happening, it could be a couple of things. It could be maybe your content just doesn't seem that valuable, or people can't find you, your reach or something like that, and you can rework it. But there's a lot of value for us in this industry to utilize LinkedIn for sure.
Yeah. The use of hashtags is huge. So definitely play around with your hashtags when you're posting, and then don't be afraid to be yourself. I mean, if you water it down and you get all like vanilla in your posts, it's so much easier to scroll by. But if you say something bold, if you buck tradition, or you bring up a subject that people aren't really talking about in your industry or in your trade, or even just in your role within your organization, people respond to that because everybody wants to have that conversation. It's just they're waiting for the person brave enough to raise their hand.
Mm-hmm.
So Instagram, I'm going to let Stacy talk.
So Instagram, we talked about, this is you're going to showcase your projects, your visual portfolio, and really focus on recruitment and company culture. Hashtags is the most important thing on this platform. People post anywhere from 10 to 30 hashtags, and you can get lost down a hashtag spiral of goodness or craziness on this platform. But You definitely want to be following, all of your subs, your vendors, your GCs on here, and then you want to be looking for key hashtags. And it's a little tricky in the beginning looking for the hashtags, but then once you get going, you'll see a ton. For example, if you're an electrical company and your goal is to recruit electricians to your organization or to the industry, because your passion is workforce development, hashtag electrician. There's they have different hashtags for community, for days of the week, for months, for holidays. I mean, it's crazy amount of hashtags. I do separate trainings on these. But it's very important to include them, because once you post that hashtag, it takes you into like a public scrolling fest, and you can connect with all these people, like-minded people, all these electricians, and you can have these wonderful conversations. So it's really important. It's also important because your customers want to see updates on your projects in real time and learn about your company. Popular on Instagram is, behind the scenes tours, day in the life videos, and Instagram takeovers. So you have your normal marketing person updating all of, the daily activities on Instagram, but don't be afraid to share, your password for the day with the CEO, and he talks live on Instagram, or an intern that's giving you a tour of the office and letting you know of their day and their experience. So be open to that. But yeah, I see this platform more as a recruitment, brand awareness, company culture tour, oh my God, tool. Sorry. I can't get out that word today. But yeah, so the importance, your best stories become your highlights. So if you're familiar with Instagram, it's important to look at your analytics. So when you have good stories on there and there's a ton of engagement, make sure you transfer those stories into your highlights, and it kind of serves as your website. And so as soon as someone goes to your Instagram page, they can look at stories and really get to know your company. The tricky thing with Instagram is there's no links. You get one link in the bio section. So there's a way to get around that. So two ways, actually. Some people, when they do an Instagram post and they want to give you more information about just say an article, you can say in the Instagram post, link in bio, and then you put the link in the bio. Mm-hmm. The problem with that is when you go to post something else, you have to constantly change that link. Mm-hmm. So there's tools out there. I think it's called Linkly or Linktree. We're going to give you a spreadsheet of all these tools after the seminar, but that is like a mini website, and you can have these drop downs and you can drive traffic to your website from Instagram. So if you want to put your career benefits on there, careers that you're hiring for, your history or something like that, Instagram can serve as like a little mini website and drive traffic back there, which is really cool. Now, the success story I want to share with you is Dr. John Marashi. And it's important here. I have a quote here. When was the last time that you were bored into buying anything? And I think that's so important for social media. You can't look at it like, we have quality service and saying all these repetitive things that all of your competitors are saying, like experts, the best in business, provider of choice. If you do conduct a competitor analysis, you'll quickly see that all the other contractors are saying this same exact thing. So how do you stand out? Well, this guy, he's in dentistry, and that again is a very highly competitive industry. He promises the smile. They all do. All the dentists promise you the best smile. So like construction, they're posting before and after pictures of teeth though. And that gets old after a while. Like people go to the dentist and they're all expecting that. So what he decided to do was incorporate his love of skateboarding, and he brought his skateboard in and he started doing tricks and posting them to his office Instagram account. And I think it was 2 years when I heard of this story, his sales increased by 33% off of Instagram because he started sharing something other than the before and after teeth pictures, which he definitely still has on there. But he's sharing a little bit more. So the goal here is get to know your team, see what other strengths that they have, and bring that to the table. When we talk about YouTube next, I can tell you how the 3 words that will get you engagement and a good following, basic. Well, you can just go next.
Actually, we have 2 questions before we get
Oh,
into
go ahead.
it.
Sorry.
We have 2 questions linking, going back to LinkedIn. The first one was from Amber. What are the best practices for length and character posts in LinkedIn? And I have found that longer posts tend to perform better. I know LinkedIn prefers longer posts, like the LinkedIn algorithm prefers longer posts, but I I never sit down to write our social media posts thinking, how long does this need to be? Usually what happens is I write the story that I'm trying to tell, and then I just make sure that it fits within the 1,300 characters that LinkedIn limits me to. But Stacy, have you
Yeah, I
experienced?
wanted to add on to that. So I follow a lot of big time copywriters that are excellent. Like their craft is amazing and they're huge on LinkedIn. One of the guys is the Word Man. You should check him out and he's hysterical. But so he has a lot of great tips about length. Don't worry about length. That's not your problem. It's the story. It's selling the story. It's selling it in the first and second sentence, hooking them on, and then, continuing with the story. And it could be a real short story within 2 or 3 sentences, or it could be a really long story. It depends on the content and, the picture or video you attach with that. But think about storytelling. That's a beginning, middle, and end to every post. And I always like to think too, answer the who, what, why, where, and when, if possible, on every single post.
Absolutely. And then the other question, which is from Christina, is when you post on LinkedIn and you need to change the post afterwards, and you go and you click edit, and then you change what you need to change, and then it shows edited. Does that impact the credibility of the post or no? Would it be better to delete the post, change what you needed to change, and then repost it? I don't think it changes the credibility of your post at all to say edited. I think we all acknowledge that sometimes we used the wrong your or the wrong there, or we spelled something wrong, and so we edited it. I edit almost all of my posts because I either have a typo because I was typing really fast, or I just wanted to use a different word, or I thought of another point that I wanted to add. I have not experienced any, in all of my marketing days, I have not yet heard anyone say that having edited on your post impacts the credibility. Stacy, have you had a similar experience? Or
the only thing I want to add to that is, if you're like a perfectionist, you have to kind of like knock that down, because
so true.
You're never going to get anywhere on this platform if you're overthinking it.
Yeah.
And simple mistakes. It's better to just post it and share your story, because people get it. They're going to get the whole point of it. Don't beat yourself up because you spelled something wrong and you have to go back and fix it. That's not everyone. We're forgiving on this platform. I've never had anyone like beat me up over that. Like they get the point of the story, especially if you tell the story well.
Yeah. So, and Gabrielle asked, any tips for engaging college students on social media for college recruitment purposes? Gabrielle, are you talking about you work for the college and you're trying to recruit, or are you talking about recruiting from the college to your construction company for companies? Okay, perfect. So my thought would be to partner with some of your local colleges and do some partner marketing through Instagram and quite possibly through TikTok. I think that could be super fun. If you are the type of company that can have that agency and kind of do something fun and clever so that it can actually get some traction on TikTok. But partnering with the college is important, because then you get their buy-in and you get them sharing your content. So that's, to Stacy's point about looking for partners, that is a point where I would go right to the college and say, I'm interested in sharing my company as a potential hiring source for your college graduates, and I want to use I want to do the social media strategy. How can we help each other? Right? Because they want job rates too. Like they also have goals
Yeah.
that serve your purpose as well.
Yep.
All right, so let's, oh, too funny. The Lori shared that she was called out one time for having spelled a word wrong on LinkedIn. And so she went back and edited it. And I just have to tell you that in my past life, I was an editor at Random House. I'm trained as a copy editor from NYU. Nothing annoys me more than when people become grammar police on social media. I know it happens. I know they do it, but I'm like, you don't edit each other's sentences when you're talking to each other. So can we put the red pencils down and have a nice conversation? But anyway, I know they're out there, and I feel your pain when they tell you you're using the wrong there. Okay, so let's dig into YouTube because we still have a lot to cover.
Yeah, so YouTube, I have quite a bit of experience with YouTube. So I found this quote actually on LinkedIn not too long ago and it cracked me up. So let's put our owner in the video. He's so boring, on video, but he's the owner. I mean, how many of you guys, please just say yes or no, have done this video before? It's so popular in our industry and it doesn't perform well at all unless you got a really dynamic leader that's super engaging and he's actually talking about something interesting, but it's usually just, about himself or the company.
Yeah.
So I have some creative videos that are really popular that you should consider in your video strategy campaign to think a little bit outside the box here. So one of the videos that are super popular on YouTube, they're called unboxing videos. I don't know if you guys are familiar with them, but it's exactly what it sounds like. It's kind of like Christmas morning, you get a package. You open up the package slowly, you take the gift out, you look at it, you talk about it. How does this transfer over to our world? Well, you could partner with a vendor. We have, how many vendors come in all the time and do these lunch and learn lessons and they talk about new systems or whatever. You can do something like that. So you can partner with the vendor and it could be in a box, or maybe if the piece of equipment's too big, that's fine. You can do something, or maybe get a big, huge box and make it like this big extravagant thing. And then the purpose of these videos and why they're so successful and why people like them is because I think it's like 85 to 90% of decision makers like to watch videos and learn about your project or service first before they say yes to it. And then you actually get to see people touching it, reviewing it live, like, all those good things that you want to check out and do your research first before you say yes or no to purchasing something. So that's really good for either partnering with your vendors, or if you yourself have products that you want to get out there, think about doing an unboxing video. And then project progress and updates, a lot of us do that. I think the problem in our industry is we do the project process and updates, right? But it's usually just music in the background. We're not telling a story with it. What are we looking at? Like half the time, it looks good, but what are we looking at? Tell the viewer, educate. This is your time to educate them about where you are in the project, what you're working on, what equipment, who's working on it, what's the timeline, give more like story behind it. You'll get more engagement out of it. Employee awards and recognition. This was pretty popular during the pandemic. This is where YouTube knocked Twitter off the charts and moved up a place because everyone was going to YouTube to look up how-to videos. They were doing company recognition and awards and everything using this channel. So I don't see that going away anytime soon. So this is also a great way to recognize your company or your employees. And then company culture. I think that's really huge too. There's some great videos on company culture out there. There's this one video, I'll have to find it and see if I can send you guys the link, but The whole video was actually recording the employees and activities that they like to do, and it had nothing to do with the company. So it was like a mom spending more time with their kids, a guy golfing more, like just their other activities. And at the end of the video, it says, we're hiring, that kind of thing. Like how that's really captivating and a different approach. I really like that. So think about company culture. So that's one of the problems in our industry is recruiting people to this industry in general and recruiting people to your organization. So once you worked out getting down your company culture, really think about how you can show that. So when people are learning about your company on your website, they're like, man, I really want to work here, that kind of thing. Explainer videos. I don't know if I have my buddy on this call, but explainer videos, we worked with a company called Broadcast 2 World. They're actually out in India and they did great work for us. They're animators. So if you have and they're reasonably priced, totally reasonably priced, delivered on time. They were excellent. Highly recommend them. They do all different types of animations. So cartoons like superheroes. The cool thing about this is if your CEO or your employees, because we have this problem, they don't want to be on camera, you can still get their stories. They're willing to be interviewed. But you can create these cartoon characters that signify what you do, and they can be in your brand colors and everything. Explainer videos are also great for if you have a process or piece of equipment that, an engineer is trying to explain to you, and you're like, this is too technical for me. You can dumb it down, put in these like fun cartoon ways to like explain something, and people are now they feel like they know, like they're in the know with you. They really understand what you're trying to sell, and that will transfer way better to sales. So think about that. And then vlogging, I'm going to show you a great example soon. Vlogging is really popular. We did a day in the life video 5 years ago of an HVAC tech, and it was still driving traffic to our website, still 5 years later, and comments all the time of people asking more questions about how do I get in the HVAC industry, and like, what are your benefits there? Where can I go to apply? So again, like that's how important video is. The one thing I really want you to take away from incorporating video and how to do it well is your video has to inform, entertain, or inspire. If it does all three, if you noticed in our case studies or examples that we showed you, they had at least one of those elements, but the ones that went viral had, all three. And that's what you have to do. So if you're creating a video and you're questioning it, is it informative? Am I teaching my audience anything? If the answer is no, move on to entertainment. Well, is it at least entertaining? Answer is no, then was it inspiring? If the answer is no to any of them, scratch it and start over. It's not worth it. And then when to hire a videographer. For contractors, I think it's really important if this video is going to be part of your proposal or part of your meeting when you're in front of clients. We did a behind the scenes tour of a fabrication shop, and we hired a videographer for that, and for several reasons. One of the main reasons is construction sites are so loud. Right. And not just that, but, if you're an electrician doing a video or a mechanical contractor, they work in really tight crawl spaces or dark areas. You need that videographers, you need the proper lighting, you need him to understand sound. We tried to do it on our own. I can tell you firsthand, we failed miserably. You have traffic in the background, construction equipment. We finally found a place. I don't know if my old boss is on here, but we finally found a place where we tried, and a truck drove by and it was too loud. And then a bird out of nowhere just hopped onto a tree right next to us and started squawking. So I'm telling you, like a lot of times it makes sense for us in our industry to hire that videographer, and it might seem expensive, like just say you spent $10,000 on this video, but if the quality and the production is excellent, that video can last for you on YouTube for years to come and drive traffic. So it's worth it. The last thing I want to talk about on video is video strategy, and why I see a lot of mistakes on this, other than putting on your like CEO or CFO and they're just like talking to the camera. You hire a videographer, right? And then you just post it once somewhere. That's it. And then you get so frustrated. There's no engagement. No one's looking at my video, that kind of thing. The problem with that is you didn't build up momentum. So how that works is you have, for example, the Fab Shop tour. This is what we did. So we had an idea. We had the script lined out. Everything was planned out. We shot it in a day. We asked the videographer, out of that footage, can you please give us like 2 to 3 30-second teaser clips? And he did that for us. So what we did is over 3 months, the first 2 months, we put out those teaser clips, like, you know, there's a tour coming up, check it out, that kind of thing. Not just that, but we did private showings to our employees so they could be proud of, you know, the company that they work for. Then we made that into like a team building type of experience. And then you can invite your clients, especially if your clients are in your video as a testimony, invite them out, do a happy hour, a dinner or something to the office and do a little private showing. And then you release the video. So over 3 months, you got people talking about the video, right? And you know it's coming. So you want to build up the momentum so you get the most bang for your buck. So that's the video strategy.
We have a bunch of questions when it comes to video. Real quick, in terms of videographers, we have a friend and partner, which is Construction Video Pros. It's owned by, I'm not going to say his last name correctly. It's Seth Farger, I believe is how you pronounce it. Anyway, he's amazing. I'm actually going to look up, it's constructionvideopros.com. You can tell him that we sent you. He's connected with Scott, our CEO, but he does great work. And to your point of like, construction sites are complicated, right? It's, you know, there's the safety issue, there's the sound issue. So getting someone who knows what they're doing in the construction zone itself is key for a really slick, polished video. And I've seen his work, it's awesome. So let's get into these questions real quick before we keep moving, because we've only got half an hour left and we still got a lot to cover. Okay, so first we have, I won't say the person's name, but the question is, what if the leader is dynamic and engaging, but all caps, so inappropriate? Do you take the embarrassment and be our true authentic self?
Okay, I would address this as
go for it.
I have some experience with this. A lot of people do in our industry, like we're in construction, right? So it's so common and people just kind of shoot from the hip in this industry. You have to have thick skin for sure. So yes, you could totally embrace that. However, after you create the video, I would send it to your HR department to look over.
Yeah.
And then maybe you can make recommendations or even during the process when you're like, oh, I'm not going to put that in there, you know. But I would run it by HR. That's a good point. I run a lot of my videos by the safety team always before I publish them. And every marketer really should do that because God forbid there's an OSHA problem in the back and then, you know, that's trouble. So yeah, I mean, there could be guys cursing in the background. So I mean, you have to run things by other people to get a couple different eyes on it for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's also about because I've run into this not here, but I've definitely run into this before with clients in my past, and for me it was a matter of is it inappropriate, like is it not good dinner table conversation, or is it going to be offensive, right? And so kind of walking that line of, if you say the F word in a YouTube video, if that's part of your brand, then that's just kind of part of your brand. Like that, we're not afraid to drop swear words in our social media posts, and we certainly aren't afraid to drop swear words in our YouTube videos because that's kind of who we are here. That's very true to the way Scott speaks, and it's true to the way most of the people we interview speak. So that's fine. But we're never offensive because because we don't want to be that type of brand, and we're not those type of people. And so that's kind of the line that we walk. But I have edited sections of videos out before because a client said something where I was just like, oh, you don't want to be known for that on the internet. Like, that's not the thing you want to be known for in this video, because it's taking away from your actual message. So that's what I would say about that. Taryn asked, what kinds of videos would we put together for employee awards or recognitions? Do you have any examples? I do not. Stacy, do you have any examples?
Yeah, we did. Well, it depends what you do, but a mechanical contractor I worked for, so every year they had an employee award ceremony in person at the holiday party. So what we did this past year was we couldn't get together in person, but there was still essential workers. So we hired a videographer, and he went out, and I worked with him as the marketing manager, and we carefully coordinated over like 2 or 3 months, I think it was, different times where he had to go out there and film these guys. We did a mixture of interviews, like they knew up front they won the award, so they were accepting their award and saying why they enjoyed their job and why they liked working there. Some guys didn't feel comfortable, conversating, which is fine. So we did just shots of them working on the job. I think we had a drone involved. I can't remember, but it was a really powerful video. It was really cool because you actually saw all the workers working, where we don't really see that in a normal award recognition dinner ceremony. So I actually like this better because we did write-ups ahead of time too. They were about a paragraph each, and the managers helped in the write-up, in the nomination write-up. So they helped, and then as the marketing person, I tweaked it. And then you can save on voiceover, by the way, if you have somebody on your team that's willing to do it and you don't outsource it, and that's totally fine to do. It's very easy to do. So you can do voiceover with the videographer and just tell a little story about how each person, why they're recognized and what award they won. And I think that's really valuable because once you post it, they want to share and with their friends and family, and then you get to see what they're actually working on and the projects they're doing. It's pretty cool.
Stacy, who's your videographer?
I work with Dominic from Tepanic Media. He's excellent. His expertise is in sound. He usually works with big time musicians and everything. So he's really good for us on the sound front, because that's what we were struggling with all the loud noises. So he always nailed that for us. So we, feel free to use them.
The next question is from Mike. Do you cross the line with video in terms of an NDA, as long as the project is not labeled? GC developer client could get worked up seeing their work published. I would say no. And this goes back to what we talked about of having that conversation with the general contractor and kind of knowing what you are and are not able to post in advance. What do you
We never had an issue. And the only issue there, which was really confusing, is they say don't post anything, but then the project's complete. For example, Amazon, and Amazon's all over the news, where it's at, the location, everything. So it's really confusing that you can't talk about it and you have to be confidential, but everybody and their mom's talking about the project. So you definitely don't want to, piss off the GC and the client. I would just have an open conversation with them. And if they want you, to keep it confidential, usually they say, yes, you can do it. You can talk about, your work or whatever, as long as you're just focused on electrical, mechanical, whatever have you, but do not mention the location, just keep it confidential. And that's kind of how you get around it, but definitely, talk to your client.
And Taryn had asked as a follow-up if we might share a list of our preferred vendors, and I think that's a great idea. So we will share a list of our preferred vendors in our follow-up thank you email for everyone. So if you didn't catch the name of Stacy's videographer, or you would like more information about the Construction Video Pros, we'll have links and contact information in our follow-up. And then also, Paula had asked if you would share contact info for Broadcast 2 World Animators. So we'll make sure and get that in the email. And that is, I'm all caught up on the questions and answers. Would you like to talk about Dad, how do I? Would you like me to play this video?
Let me talk about it real quick. So Dad, how do I? This is another opportunity that you can get, you know, young coordinators or interns on board to do searches like this on YouTube. But anyway, so this dad, he went viral in March 2020. I don't know if anybody has seen him. You can say yes or no. He's blown up now, and I'm sure he was all over the place during Father's Day this year. But last year, he posted a couple of videos because his daughter, who was in college, she just went to college, she kept calling him and asking him simple questions. And he would create these YouTube videos like how to change a tire. And then he was thinking, man, what do people do that don't have a dad? You know, so he just started doing these videos and he just blew up really quickly. Kevin Hart just did an interview with him. I don't know if you guys saw Kevin Hart's new movie, Fatherhood. I just saw it was really cute. But they teamed up together. But before that, contractors were going after him saying, can we partner on videos? There's a grass video on here, landscaper, you know, how to plant your first garden. Like there's so many opportunities. He might be too big now. He has like 3 million followers, but I want to you can play the video of his success story.
We've got to take care of her.
Skip this ad.
Thank you. That was fast.
One call
Oh, I
to
can't
USA
skip the
got
ad.
her toe her claim pay.
And now he's monetizing his YouTube videos, by the way. So he's making money off of them.
Hey kids, today I'm going to show you how to iron a men's dress shirt. Today I'm going to show you how to shave. Today I'm going to show you how to tie a tie.
These questions that you answer, like how to tie a tie, how to change a tire, are these the questions that you had as a child growing up without a dad?
It definitely would have been helpful for me to have some of these videos, because when I first shaved, I didn't know what I was doing.
55-year-old Rob Keeney is one of 7 siblings. When he was entering his teenage years, his parents' marriage was falling apart, and his mom struggled with alcohol addiction. The couple soon divorced, and Rob's father took custody of the remaining kids in the home.
He got custody of us, but he would load up the cabinets with groceries, and then he'd be gone for a week because he had met another woman. And then my dad finally, on my sister's 9th birthday, announced he didn't want to have kids anymore. And that was when I was 14.
Rob's older brother Rick took him in and reared him through his teenage years in a cramped mobile home. Let's fast forward to you becoming a dad. How did all of that shape the way that you were going to be a dad?
At a very young age, I determined I wasn't going to do that. That I wanted to do it the right way.
Hey, Daddy. Rob and his wife went on to rear 2 children of their own. In conversations in recent years with his adult daughter, Christine, the two often talked about Rob's habit of offering his kids dad advice. In those talks, the seed for the Dad How Do I video series was planted.
You want the tie to come out right above your waistline. Looks cool that way. If you have it up here, that's dorky.
I want to hear from a comforting parent right now. I said, Dad, I would just watch you change a tire if I'm honest.
Other side.
Rob, when you posted that first video, what did you expect?
Thought I'd have 30 or 40 subscribers and just a few people would see it.
And now how many YouTube subscribers do you have?
2 million.
What does that tell you?
It just shows what a need there is, which actually is a little bit, it breaks my heart a little bit. And that can be a little overwhelming when I read the comments.
Thousands of comments like these line the pages of Rob's videos. As a man of faith, he says he's humbled by the source of kindness and support his videos have become for those without a father figure in their lives.
If you just need a method, this is one that's worked well for me for a long time.
How much of all of this has been cathartic for you?
Over the years, I've had to cough up, I call them coughing up hairballs, because there's times where I've gotten in a bad place and had to call my brother and had to talk me through what happened to me.
You've taken that pain and you created something fantastic for millions of people.
I get a little overwhelmed thinking, man, I hope I do this right.
I'm so grateful for the community that you guys are building.
It's very unfiltered. I think that takes a lot of strength and vulnerability to really lean into who you are and not pretend to be anyone you're not. So I'm very proud of him for doing that.
Today, I'm going to show you how to use a stud finder. If you came here looking for help finding a boyfriend, that would be a different stud finder. Dad joke, sorry.
One of the highlights of your posts are the dad jokes that you work in.
I tell you what my favorite joke is. It's a knock-knock joke, though, and I haven't been able to use it because you can't have a knock-knock joke. Knock-knock.
Who's there?
Interrupting cow.
Interrupting cow. That's how you know that you've become a dad, when you laugh at jokes like that.
Okay, so
Yeah,
that's cool. That's priceless and made my daughter, like, that's actually my daughter's favorite. That's my daughter's favorite knock knock joke as well. So I feel very I feel very seen by that. And also I think in the chat you should raise your hand if you are also struggling to not cry by that video. Holy cow. Okay,
Yeah.
we still have a lot to cover. So we have a question. We're a 7-person firm and I'm responsible for all marketing and business development. Everyone else works in the field, in other words, and they're too busy to contribute much content. Any suggestions for developing content in this scenario? And the first thing I want to say is I feel your pain because there's 10 of us in this office and I am responsible for all the marketing and sales enablement and customer experience that happens here. And it's a big job. So I see you, I feel your pain. I'm here for you. My recommendation is to get really strategic about what's working for you, and to create a calendar. I happen to use Trello because it's free and it's what I'm used to from my agency days, but it's a project management system and I use it specifically for me. I map out what I need to do that month and then I have a column for things that come later after that month. But I know I have to send out these customer emails. I know I have to map out the social media. I know I have to write 3 blogs. I know, like, these are the things I know I have to do. And that's how I stay sane. The other option is to freelance some of it out. There are tons of freelancers out there hungry for work, who have industry experience, who can offer photography, who can write content for you, who can help with social media. That those people are out there. And if you can make the case, the ROI case, if you can say, like, if we do this for 6 months, I expect our audience to grow by this much, and I expect that to generate this much potential new business, then it can be easier to win those extra dollars to hire a freelancer. What about you, Stacy? What would you say?
I think that's perfect.
I've helped other marketers have that conversation before when I was a freelancer, a freelance marketer. I would say I know that it's hard to get money for a social media strategist. Let me come in and talk to your CEO about how if I drive this much traffic from LinkedIn, it's going to equal this much potential new business. So that can really help. Okay, do you want to talk about Asheville Waste Management, or do you want to?
We won't watch the whole video. Maybe we can watch like the first minute just so you have a taste of it, and we'll send you the link later because we're running out of time. But Asheville Wastewater Management Systems, based out in the UK. This guy works with a professional videographer and he owns this company. And the same messaging that we've talked about throughout all of this, he entertains, he inspires, and he informs his audience. He's very engaging. He's great on camera, and just even the partnership with the videographer is really, really cool. So I'll let you see a little clip of this, but he has a whole YouTube channel. He has about 240,000 subscribers now.
Daniel from Asheville. Everybody gets really excited when they buy a new car. Well, we at Asheville, and me personally, are very passionate about lorries and machines. I've ordered a new machine from Liebherr, and today's the big day. she is the L860, my new pride and joy. To give you an idea about the size of it, give you some perspective, I'm 6'5", and this is the bucket. Actually chewing up the concrete. This is what we're going to use to offload the trains when the trains come into the yard. If you can see, we've got an elevated cab. We need the elevated cab so we can lift ourselves up, so we can look inside the train carriages, so we can see what we're doing when we're working. The machine weighs 60 tons.
That's awesome. Can we talk about how awesome that video production is? Like,
Yeah,
the
that
drone shots and the
videographer.
sound. Yeah, good job. Plus, who doesn't want to hear that British accent all day long? Right? This makes everything better.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
how you
the
win.
video is lagging a little bit, but when you watch it on your own, it's really up to speed. And he's really funny too. He has a great personality. He's very entertaining to watch. So definitely check out some more of his videos.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, so let's dig into the social media strategy, our checklist. Before you start posting, or if you've already started posting, now that you are going to do this strategically, you need to define your goals. You need to conduct a competitor analysis. You need to identify the missing motivators. Stacy has a great point on that. I'm looking forward to. You need to define your messaging or redefine your messaging. You need to include call to actions. And we're going to talk about the analytics. And we're going to talk about big rock content, recognizing which content is high performing and how to repurpose it.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter what social media platforms you want to be on. To get the biggest bang for your buck, you need a strategy.
And
This
you
isn't
have-
just like your
Yeah.
personal Facebook page.
Yeah, I saw this quote the other day. If you write like a water hose, meaning you're like over perfecting, taking your time, you need to be like a nail gun. You have to spit out content and it's got to be
Mhm.
consistent. That's when people are going to pick up the call and have the good conversations and close business.
True.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about your goals. So I tell my clients, and I acknowledge that on our social media, we have different goals per platform. Our Facebook and our Instagram are much more, the content itself is much more company culture. And so our goals are more of just engagement. It's not click-throughs to ads. It's not click-throughs to our website. It's really just, we're just there we're just there for the likes.
Yeah, so it's really important to figure out what your goal is for each platform, set it in the beginning of your strategy, take, a couple months, look at it again. Are we on the same page? Are you getting results? And keep going with it. And if it's not working, then you just change your strategy up.
Absolutely. Do you have anything else you want to add on defining your goals? I have a very, when I created a social media strategy for a client back in the day, I did it as a formal exercise. This is Facebook. This is what we're going to use it for. This is what our goal is. These are the types of content we're going to post to meet that goal. I don't think it has to be that formal, but I do think you have to have an idea of what the goal is per platform. Stacy, do you agree with that?
Yeah, you should have, a percentage or some kind of numbers in there and it has to be a goal that you can achieve. Like, don't go crazy. We're business to business. It's hard. We're not business to consumer platforms. We're not pizza or Nike shoes. Like, you're not going to get that level of engagement. You're selling, quite frankly, like boring services. Some people might be offended by that, but to the average person, they rather talk about pizza. They don't want to talk about a big piece of equipment. So you have to be really creative and you have to be really honest about what your goals are and how, your metrics, how you're going to get them.
Yeah, and the goals have to come first, because the goals then other than the other way around, where you're like, oh, I have this great idea for content. If you put your goals first, you don't create content without a goal, without a purpose, right? Because then you create fun content, but you don't have a purpose behind it. And then you get frustrated why it's not doing anything. Well, you didn't assign it a goal to begin with.
Mhm.
So I think that having a goal per platform is totally key to start. Okay, so then define your messaging. I have 2 points to share to this. I want to talk about voice versus tone. This is not just for social media. This is for marketing in general. Your voice is your voice. It's true throughout every brand touch point. It's part of your company's personality. It's part of your company culture. It's who you are as a company all the time. Tone, on the other hand, changes based on the situation. Just like in real life, we have who we are as people, and that's our voice. Like I tend to have kind of a casual voice. I say words like awesome. I drop like a lot more than I quote unquote should. I use air quotes. That's my voice. But my tone changes depending on if I'm having a tough conversation with a client or if I'm celebrating with coworkers on success. That's a different tone. So that's the difference between voice and tone. And you really should identify what your voice is as a company and then define what kind of tone you're going to use per social media platform. So that's my point on voice and tone. Brand script. If you haven't read it yet and you are in charge of marketing for your company, I highly recommend the Brand Storybook by Donald Miller. It is amazing and he will help you write a brand script. Your brand script is essentially, the actual formal exercise looks a lot like the old Mad Libs. I know I'm dating myself there, but it is literally like most and then your potential customer, your prospect, experience and then a pain point. And what it does is it maps out an actual story, which Stacy and I have talked about at length here, how important the story is, but it maps out that story of your prospect as the hero of the story, solving their pain point as the quest that they are going on, and then you as the guide that can help them achieve that goal and win the cash and prizes. The analogy I've used with clients and in other webinars is, in the brand script, your customer is Han Solo and you are Yoda. Or if you are not a Star Wars fan, in your brand script, the customer is Frodo Baggins and you are Gandalf. And if neither of those analogies work for you, I don't know what to do, because those are two of the most popular pop culture references that I can possibly think of. I can't make Marvel work quite yet. I haven't figured out a Marvel reference yet, but I'll get there. So that's brand script and voice and tone. And your value proposition is just a single sentence that is wholly unique to you. Everybody wants to say we're the safest company. Everybody wants to say that we do excellent work, right? Well, of course you do. Like that's the baseline. That's what every customer expects, is that you do excellent work and that you're safe. You need something that is uniquely valuable to you. So here's how we solve your pain point in this uniquely valuable way. That's a value proposition. If you have all three of these lined up before you start your social media strategy, or before you launch your social media strategy, you are way ahead of the game, because you know how you talk to people, you know the story you need to tell, and you know why it's valuable for them.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you for coming to my TED Talk on voice and tone for social media. That's all I got.
And then to close it up here with line with company mission, values, and vision. This is really important when when company culture is important to your organization and you have a strong one, to make sure that those values are in everything that you write. Right. And then you can see why it's working. It could be part of your tagline, like with Shapiro and Duncan, we had our people perform. You can incorporate that so people know exactly what you stand for all the time and there's no question. And then consider key missing motivators. This is super important to consider, especially if you have a recruitment problem and workforce development is, a big part of your strategy, how to recruit people to positions that are hard to fill or in the industry in general. You have to think about the negatives and then switch them over to the positives. Okay. So like if your industry is boring, make it fun. How are you going to make it fun? You got to solve that problem. If people say, I don't want to work in construction, it's too unsafe, start talking about your safety ratings and how you're OSHA compliant and show how safe you are. You know, just go down the list for an example, but those are the missing motivators that you have to incorporate into your strategy, especially if recruiting people to positions is tough for you.
Okay, I'm just letting people know because we're starting to see the drop off. So if you have to jump off, thank you so much for your time. We fully respect it. And we will send a video replay link as well as that list of vendors in an email tomorrow. So I just wanted to make sure everyone knew because I know we're running just a little bit over. Okay, so moving into conducting a competitor analysis. All I want to say about this is that you should definitely look at what your competitors are doing, and then you should figure out a way to do it better and unique, or you should do something that they're not doing. You should be looking for the opportunities. Don't look at what your competitors are doing and then do exactly that.
Don't.
That's like the 30-second summary of that slide.
Mhm. Yeah.
There's a great analogy about how everybody has Facebook, but before Facebook, there was Friendster. And so Facebook wasn't new. Facebook was unique and different. It was better. It was better than what was already there. Same thing with Google, right? There were other search platforms that existed, but Google made it better. So if you see something your competitors are doing and you're like, I like that, that's cool, think about how you can do it better.
Not just that, but there is opportunities on social to partner with your competition if you're trying to meet the same goals, especially if it's, you know, recruiting, you're both having a hard time figuring out how to recruit people into the industry. You can partner on different things or contests or something like that. If you both want to get more following, just make sure that your value is aligned and you're kind of on the same page before you make that partnership.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially, you know, if you like, we have a YouTube series called Built for Growth, where we talk about industry issues. We talk about diversity in construction, women in construction, mental health in construction. If you're doing something along those lines, please reach out to your competitors, because we can all align around those, like those industry issues that affect all of us.
Yep.
So let's talk about analytics. I'm a big believer that too many social media not just social media strategists, too many marketing strategists pay attention to metrics without recognizing how they roll back up to the goal. Mm-hmm. So when I present my KPI reporting every month to Scott, I have the goal first, what we were trying to accomplish in social media for that quarter, and then also for that month, and then based on that, what data am I going to present? I'm not going to show what our Facebook leads from Facebook is, because it's actually not something that, it's not the goal of Facebook. The goal of Facebook is engagement, and so I post, I report back how many new followers we have and how much engagement we got, because that's what I care about. That's what that platform is for me, as opposed to LinkedIn, where I do absolutely show how many new leads came in from LinkedIn. And we use Salesforce, which is just a real quick important tip from me, is that the CRM that you use can be night or day in terms of your ability to track ROI. I can show, because I use Salesforce and I use Salesforce's marketing platform called Pardot, I can show that a lead was interacting with our LinkedIn before they visited our website and then clicked the Apply Now button. So that one-to-one connection it's gold for marketers. What else can we talk about? Oh, LinkedIn social selling index, that's on me as well. So if you haven't already, scrape that link, go type it in if you're logged into LinkedIn, and you will see your social selling index. It's basically how much of an expert in your field LinkedIn thinks that you are, how influential you are in your audience. So the more you post and the more engagement you get, the higher your LinkedIn's social selling index will be, which actually really helps with the LinkedIn algorithm, because once you're considered an expert, your post gets your posts get bumped. You cannot reach a perfect score without paying for their products. So don't focus on that. Just be aware that as the more you post and the more engagement you get, the higher SSI will go. And so it is a good indicator of how your LinkedIn overall platform is doing.
And I think they give you suggestions to improve too, but the highest
Yeah.
score you can get is 80%. And then if you purchase the LinkedIn Sales Navigator, the highest score you can get is 100. So just so you have like a little metric to go by.
Okay, this is probably my favorite concept or slide. So I learned about the Big Rock concept back in 2014 from Jason Miller, who at the time was the head of content for LinkedIn and is now the brand manager for Active Campaign. But the idea is just that you start with a really good idea. Oh, I want to talk about, the state of, I want to talk about women in construction, right? That's my big idea. Okay, so I'm going to do a giant industry report about women in construction. That's my big rock. Now, how many different ways can I chisel that big rock? Can I do separate individual articles? Yes, I can. Can I do YouTube interviews with some of the women who responded to my survey? Yes, I can. Can I do infographics for Instagram? Yes, I can. So it's just breaking down this big piece of content into smaller and smaller, like what they call snackable pieces for all your different social media platforms.
And you only want to spend your time doing that for when you post something and it gets a ton of engagement. That's a hot topic. You can switch it up to different audiences. If you have something like, I want to recruit people to this industry, that could be different audiences. So you could have an article on, I want to recruit, or HVAC technicians should be in this industry. And then you could do plumbers should be in this industry, electricians. You can segment your audiences and it's the same topic. It's just a new headline because technically that information applies to all of them. But when they see that headline, it relates more to them. So they'll read it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, we had that exact situation. We wrote a blog article called the Guide to Merchant Cash Advances, and it is still one of our top drivers on our website years later. But because it was generating so much traffic, we knew that it was a hot topic. And so we created a digital guide around it. We created multiple YouTube videos around it. And then we created infographics for Instagram that promoted that there was a digital guide available. So we took that big idea, we saw that it had traction, and then we just chiseled it as many times as we could. This is our list of social media essential tools. I will include this in the email, and also the slides will be included in the video replay, but I don't want to spend too much time on it. But just to say, you don't have to spend a ton of money to create a social media strategy. A lot of these are free or are available for a low subscription. So that spend your money wisely. If you can do something, if you can bootstrap it, bootstrap it.
Yep.
I do a lot of, since I'm a marketing department of one, I don't have a graphic designer. I live and breathe in Canva. That's like the one that I use more than anything to build everything I need. And this is the last slide. And I love this slide from Stacy so much, just because I love the message, because it's so true.
Does anybody else have any more questions before we go? Thank you so much for coming out today and letting us share these stories and examples with you. I hope that some of the stories you haven't heard of and you're inspired and can take some of the things that we taught you today into your own brand. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with.
Yeah, please, and you can follow up with our emails, and if you're interested in working with Stacy, that's her email right there, but I'll also include that on the thank you email that we send out. If there's no additional questions, I don't see any additional questions yet. So we'll go ahead and we'll set you all free to the rest of your day. Thank you all so much for coming.
Thank you so much.